Welcome back to the Home Path Podcast. This is Raphael, and today we're going to talk about overcoming the fear of buying your first home and what you need to know. So, back in, 2010, I purchased my first home, and I didn't know what I was doing. Someone told me it was a great idea, but it was right around the time when I received my rent increase letter. And when I received this letter, most like some of you around this time, you get a notice that your rent will increase. And, it just, I started adding it up of all the years renting and all the increases. And it just seems like I was not getting ahead. And I had an opportunity where back then I had a 401k that I wasn't really using or doing anything with. And I didn't have any money saved up. It didn't look, really pretty. And I didn't get to buy in the home or in the area that I wanted because it was in an area that I didn't want to live in, but it was an opportunity. So I think back then, I'm glad that I did it. But what I see now in this day is that the cost of living's gone up, the prices have gone up. I think I bought that for really low price. I think now it's more than doubled or tripled, I would say, in what it costs. So the cost of purchasing has gone up. And what I found is that I just wanted to lock myself in to something that wasn't going to go up. And I did. I accomplished that. I owned that property for 7 years before I sold it. Didn't really do much to it. It was a townhome. It wasn't even that big. It was just a place where I lived, but it was just it wasn't that pretty because at the time I had put everything into the down payment and the closing cost, and at the end of the day, I think I had like mattress, a TV, and that was it. I didn't have a couch. I didn't have a table. I didn't really want to invite people over because really I didn't have any furniture. But guess what? While everybody was renting and getting rent increases, I was able to move in and eventually, was able to buy the furniture and do things like that. But it was just something that I did because I knew that I had to do it. And what was really good is that when I walked away with huge profit, even after realtor fees and things like that. Never did I receive a rent increase while I was locked into a 30-year mortgage. And there was just some sacrifices that I had to do in order to be able, to purchase that home. So I think there's there's definitely a fear when buying your first home. You don't know what you're doing or why you're doing it. And a lot of the opportunities that come your way get passed by. There's so many people that I talk to 1, 2, 3 years later, and what they'll say is, "Hey, I really have an intention of buying a home, but I really think that prices are going to come down or the interest is going to come down." So there's no perfect time to do it. I don't think I would have bought a home if I was playing that game as, oh, I think the properties are going to go down or I think the interest rates are going to go down. I just did it because I just knew that I was able to just pay down the balance and lock myself into a rate or payment that I could afford at that time. And I can tell you right now that there is no perfect time for you to buy. I know it can be very fearful of you committing to something for quote unquote the next 30 years, which I sold mine in 7. So it just can be, something that can be daunting. And, it's really good to get with someone that can guide you through the process, because once they guide you through the process, then you're going to have more clarity on how the process works. And working with a lot of first-time home buyers, I was very much like them, right? We get fixated on all of the risk that comes with buying a home, which a lot of the time there's not a whole lot of downsides. It's just if you break your garbage disposal, you're going to have to fix it. And, that just comes, there's a cost for homeownership, for things like that. Because normally if you rent right now, if something breaks, you just call the company and they have to fix it. So it's always good to, be cautious, do your inspection before you buy your home, just to know that everything is going to at least work for the next year or two. and you know you're going to be locked in into a price that you can't afford. So there is some fear around home ownership, but I can tell you it's definitely paid off. And the more you wait, it just gets more expensive. And there is no strategic advantage of holding off, because the more you hold off, the prices increase, things change all the time. And what I end up finding out is that most people will have to, if live in the coast and you want to buy in the coast, you get outpriced because financially you still make the same amount of money. So you're going to have to do what I did, is move to an area that you didn't really want to live in, but it was your opportunity to be able to purchase a home with the price that you could afford. So there's only two options. You either keep renting and try to make it work, and they're going to keep, over the years, what's going to happen is they're going to keep increasing your rent. So you're going to, in maybe 5 years, have to do something anyway, because that's usually what happens. You keep renting. If you stay, they're going to keep increasing the rent to the point where you just say you can't do it no more. You keep making the same amount at your job. So you're literally, your back's against the wall. Some of these rent increases that I see is like an additional $500 a month. And some people don't get a $500 a month increase in their job. So now they're getting a little bit tighter and squeezing, right? Because if you're on a fixed income, there's only so much you can do. So it does come to a reality that there's two things you can do to solve this. You're going to need to start making more money right away, or you're going to need to find an area that you can afford. That's usually not going to be in the desired area that you want to be. So those are the only two options: make more money, or move into an area where you can purchase a home, start paying down the balance on that mortgage. And then also, guess what's going to happen next year? Nothing. You're locked into a 30-year fixed mortgage. So your payment is not going to increase. You're not going to get that dreaded letter that your rent's going up. So there is a lot on both ends, and I get it. It can be scary, but what's scary is just staying the same and doing the same thing over and over again, because when something happens, you're not going to be prepared. You haven't prepared yourself. And usually when I get the frantic phone calls of someone receiving a letter with a rent increase of $500 or more, they're not ready. They didn't prepare. They don't, they haven't paid down their credit cards. They haven't done their taxes. Like, everything is out of order, and it just feels like the world is, crumbling in, because they didn't take the time to at least say, okay, where am I at? What do I need to do? And how do I prepare myself? And those are some of the most basic things that you can do on your own. You don't even have to reach out to us or anybody in particular. You can just start looking at your affairs and saying, look, what subscriptions do I need to cancel? Where are we leaking money where we can just start paying down some of this debt, or putting ourselves in positions? Or can I start looking at a different job that's going to pay more so I can buy in the desired area? Or do I need to just, look at what the commute time would be if I bought outside of the area that I work in? So those are some serious questions for you to start off in the year. And I love these because it starts to expand your capacity and makes you think about removing some of the fear of buying a home, because all that fear is just unknown questions that you haven't taken the time to address by yourself, because you're too scared to look in the mirror and say, look, this is the reality of how much I'm bringing in. And then these are the things that I have to do, because now you're required to change. And for those of you that are providers and you have a family, that you have a lot of people that depend on you. And sometimes it requires you to change jobs, change locations. And some people, some families are in really great school districts. I've seen this in different areas where they want to buy, but it's completely out of their budget. So they're going to continue to rent until the son or daughter graduates high school, because they're just in a really great school system. And a lot of those kids have great friends and they don't want to move. That's a really tough situation to be in. And yeah, sometimes you have to make the sacrifice of staying in the same school district for your children. And there's just some times where it just doesn't make sense to move and continue to rent. So I like to take a look at someone's scenario from different angles, not just a black and white financial aspect, because I myself went to school in a great school district, and if I had to move, then it probably wouldn't have had the same outcome or impact in my life. So I completely understand of what it's like to move. And in fact, I had to move my senior year to an area where I had to drive to school, and it really changed everything for me. But I was glad to still graduate from the same school in a great school, and I know that it's not possible for everybody, so you do have to take everything into account when you're making these decisions. But one thing is for sure is that if you continue to rent, the prices of just the cost of renting is going to continue to climb. If you look back from the 80s, 90s, 2000s, 2010, 2020 and above, you'll see that the rent's only going up. What's interesting is that nobody will ever say, I'm going to wait to rent until the prices come down, because you have to rent. But you do that for homes, right? I'm going to wait to buy until the house price. You're not the market. The market doesn't predict all of this. So there is no perfect time to buy. It's just when you're ready and you have the capacity to do it, because now you start paying down the debt. And, a lot of times you want to wait for prices to come down or for the interest rates to come down. But some people waited 5+ years for that to happen, and they could have already paid down the balance. They could have already locked themselves in, but they chose otherwise. And if you're one of those speculators, stop it. You're not an expert. There's a lot that you can read, and we've gone through some wild times over the last 5 years. That's half a decade. But if you sit around and speculate, a lot of things can happen, and it just gets pricier. So if you have the ability and you can buy, start looking at what that would look like for you. Because as soon as you start asking yourself those tough questions, it'll become easier for you to see that once you remove the fear of buying, then you start looking at the possibilities of what are the benefits and how is that going to impact your family if you just start heading in that direction. And I guarantee you, it can be one of the best decisions that you could do. It's just being able to sleep in your own home, being able to paint the walls the color that you want, and not being able to get a rent renewal increase every single year. And I talk to a lot of families that have the same challenges. They go through the same things. They can't paint the walls, or they want to do something to the backyard and they can't. Or there's just so much that they want to do, but they feel like because they are renting, they have to abide by the rules or by the contract. So remove the fear, face the challenges, and start talking to others. Don't just talk to us. Talk to other people that have purchased. There's so many people out there that have already made the decision that if you continue to wait, if you're going to maybe surround yourself with some renters, you're going to continue to rent. And if you surround yourself with people that have already purchased a home, maybe start getting some input from there as well. Start removing the fear and start getting clarity around what that looks for you. And if that's you, head on over to CaliforniaHomePath.com and take a look at what we could do for you. Start putting in your information, get in contact with us, and start the conversation of, if you're renting, what is it going to take for you to get to the finish line? And that's all I have for you today. Thanks for joining, and we'll see you on the next episode.